Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Chris Shaw. I'm a registered dietitian and a personal trainer. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about mindful eating and how you can use these principles and tailor it specifically to whatever goal you have, whether it's athletic, whether it's physique, or if it's just general health. These principles, these 5 principles right here of mindful eating can be used and applied no matter what your goal is. So to jump right in here, these 5 principles, they all kind of blend together. They all can be used interchangeably. And just to start, the first thing that I always like to recommend is to check in before each meal. And what this means is that before you sit down to eat, before you even go to make that first food decision, if you're not sure what it is that you're going to eat, check in with yourself. Slow down for a second. Recenter and think deeply, what is it that I want to eat? Find out what it is. Maybe you're craving something specifically, maybe you're not craving anything and you just know that you want to eat something specific because it's pushing you towards your goal. Whatever it is, if you could just find time to slow down, really check in before each meal and figure out what it is that you want, you will eventually start to become very in tune with those internal cues, and you won't have to make such a concerted effort to check in. So all of these principles, again, they will blend together, but if you can start using them over time, the goal is for them to get so easy that they're just second nature, that you're not necessarily thinking about it and you're doing this before each of your meals or during each of your meals without putting so much effort toward it. So to get started, like I said, try to take some time before you sit down to eat, check in, identify what it is that you're hungry for, and this lands right into number 2, which is the hunger scale. So after you've sat down, you've decided what it is that you're hungry for, you've decided what it is that you're going to eat, before making that plate, before choosing what that serving size is going to be, I always recommend using the hunger scale. Now, to put this very simply, you can think of it as a ruler. Okay, so 5 is at the bottom and you're completely empty. Number 1 is up at the top and you're completely full. So before sitting down to eat, if you can put a number on it, so say you're a 4, you're very hungry, you're not starving, you're not empty, but you're very hungry. That portion size on that plate for that meal is going to look very different than that portion size if it were a 2. So again, checking in, slowing down before you eat will start to get you into this process of checking in. After you're used to checking in, you can get used to putting that number on it. So now you've decided what it is that you're hungry for. Now you've decided how hungry you truly are. So now you have the food picked out, you can pick out the quantity. And as you get used to doing this, you're going to start being able to make these changes on the fly. And maybe there are times that you need to eat a little more if you're pursuing some sort of athletic endeavor and you want to put on some muscle mass or something like that. Maybe it is the fact that you have to eat a little bit less because you're trying to lose a little weight. Whatever it is, you can start to make micro adjustments, but if you get used to checking in and putting that number on it each and every time, you're going to be able to make more informed, accurate decisions for you specifically. So now that we have the food picked out, now that we have the quantity of food picked out, number 3 here is eat without distractions. Very easy when we're eating to be on the phone, to be in front of a TV, to be very distracted. And although this is okay sometimes, the problem with this is when we're distracted, it's very hard to check in with those internal cues and to figure out how hungry you truly are. I'm sure you've experienced this before where you sit down to eat, before you know it, the meal's gone, you're overly full and it's really hard to move and you're very uncomfortable and you didn't even really notice that you did eat. You just kind of inhaled what's in front of you. I'm guilty of this, I do this often as well. But this is something that if we could start to eat without distractions, it helps us prevent this. So if we can check in with the hunger scale beforehand as well, and then eat without distractions, we can be very, very in tune with what our body needs, what our body wants, and how that hunger is changing throughout the meals to make sure that we don't overeat, and conversely, to make sure that if we didn't eat enough at that first sitting and that first serving, that it's okay to add a little more food to the plate, to go back and get seconds if it is something that we need in that moment. So if you can start using these, you can start to get very keyed in to what your body needs and wants in each moment. So now that we have the first 3 checked off, number 4 is a very simple yet difficult to implement technique called the fork method. It's something that is very powerful and it helps us slow down and really become in tune with what our body needs. And although it is simple, it's really hard to implement sometimes because it's something that's very uncommon and hard to kind of put into place. It's almost like brushing your teeth with the wrong hand. It just takes a minute to get used to. It's a little awkward at first. So the fork method simply is putting your fork down between bites. So if you're eating, you pick the fork up, put your food in the mouth, put the fork down. You don't pick the fork back up until you've finished eating, chewing the food that you're eating at that moment. So what this does naturally, just by this process, we'll begin to slow down at meals. And the slower we eat, the more in tune we can become with those hunger signals. It does take time for our brain to recognize how full we truly are. And instead of eating really quickly and becoming over full, if we can put the fork down, or if you're eating a sandwich, put the sandwich down, whatever it is, if you could just take a minute to put the food down and to step back for a second, finish chewing, swallow, then go for that next serving, that next bite, you're going to be able to naturally become more in tune with how your hunger is changing throughout those meals and to eat portion sizes that are in line with what your body needs in that moment. And this last piece here, number 5, is to focus on the taste and texture of the food. So as you can start to see, these all do lend to each other. And if we can focus on the taste, focused on the texture, what this does, one, is it actually naturally helps us slow down as well. Because if you're focusing on the food as you're chewing it, you're going to slow down because you're going to be chewing a little bit more and eating a little bit slower. The other thing that it does is it makes the eating experience more enjoyable. So often when you eat really quick, even if you really enjoyed the meal, it's hard to cherish that and to really notice what it is that you ate. But if you could just slow down and focus on the taste, focus on the texture, put the fork down between bites, eat without distraction so you can taste that food a little bit more prominently and slow down a little bit more. If you can do all of these things together, you'll naturally start to figure out what your body needs, how your body is reacting to different hunger signals, how as your training or exercising program changes, those hunger signals change, and in turn your portion sizes might need to change to kind of match that. So as you can see, these things all blend together. These are highly individualized. It's something that does take a lot of practice to get used to because it is something that has been almost conditioned out of us with the way that we live right now. So if you can get used to doing some of these things and checking in with those internal cues, it can really let you know how your body's reacting to different foods, what foods make you most energized, feel the best, what foods maybe make you feel a little sluggish and you want to eat a little less of those. So no matter what your goals are, if you can start applying these principles, you will start to make progress towards your goals, and it gives you a lot of feedback into how to make those micro adjustments as you go. So if you have any questions about how to implement any of these, if you have any comments about using these in the past and any information that you want to share, please drop a comment below. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It definitely helps the channel a lot. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was informative, and I will see you soon.